Hi class, it's Miss Miller, and today we're going to continue our discussion on the rhetorical devices used in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. And more specifically, we're going to look at Act 3 of the play. And this is the part where Caesar dies, right? He's finally stabbed to death. It took a long time to get to that point. And then I got to be honest with you, in the actual play, it's a complete letdown. There's like a couple of lines where it describes his death. We did all of this, and this is what it comes to, but that's okay. He dies. And now we are at the point where Mark Antony is giving a eulogy on behalf of Caesar. So that's where the rhetorical devices come in. And when I say Mark Antony, I'm not referring to J-Lo's Mark Antony. I'm referring to Shakespeare's Mark Antony. And that would be Caesar's former BFF. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at the devices in the text. Now the first one, which I find super interesting, is Apophysis. Okay, and we do this quite frequently in our everyday dialogue with our friends, our peers, our family. We do it in a way that we don't even realize we're using rhetoric, but basically it just means the emphasis or emphasizing of a point by seeming to pass over or deny it. Okay, and if you look at the example, it says, I'm not going to bring up rumors of my opponent's infidelities because I think it would be unfair. Now, if you realize when you're hearing this, if you hear a speaker making this comment, you recognize that, oh my gosh, this person was not faithful, right? So they're emphasizing this point, but they're also at the same time sort of denying it. So what I'm seeing here is like, oh no, don't look over here. But really, you want everyone to look in that direction. So it's a little misleading. So again, that one is emphasizing of a point by seeming to pass over or deny it. And again, I feel like we do this. You probably do this at least once a week. Let's take a look at an example of what it looks like in the play. Now here it is. Mark Antony is in his speech, and part of it says, I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Now, come on, Anthony. We know you're here to praise him. You want all of us to praise him, and you had to deny that fact for us to really get it. And so that is Apophysis in a nutshell. Let's take a look at Asyndeton. Okay, this one is really easy. In fact, I feel like the rhetorical devices introduced in Act 3 of the play, either we're getting better at it, or they're just getting easier. One or the other, or maybe a combination of both. But this one is simply a series of words or phrases or clauses that use no conjunctions. That's it in the series. So no but, no and. And listen, we all do this, okay? And it has a rhetorical effect. If you don't believe me, check out Jay-Z Encore, right? He uses these same lyrics, and I think it's like if we get with the rhythm, it's, and I need you to remember one thing. I came, I saw, I conquered, right? You don't hear him say, I came, I saw, and I conquered. No, he doesn't do that. He just says, I came, I saw, I conquered. And there's lots of rhetorical devices where this is used, but here is an example of what this one looks like. There is no mention of any conjunctions in the work, and it's just that simple. Okay, so now let's take a look at it again when Mark Antony is in the midst of his eulogy on behalf of Caesar. He says, are all thy conquests, glories, triumphs, spoils, shrunk to this little measure, right? He didn't say conquests, glories, triumphs, and spoils. He omits it completely. The next one is epomeny. Okay, and this is very similar to anaphora and epistrophe, but it's simply repeated phrase tends to be longer, which you'll see in this point or in this section, and it's often a complete sentence. In this case, it is a complete sentence. He repeats himself. In this case, it's Brutus. So who is here so base that would be a bondman? If any, speak, for him I have offended. Right? And then he continues with a speech. Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? If any, for him have I offended. Right? If any speak, for him I have offended. So it's the repetition or The sentence is being repeated. It's not an aphora. It's not at the beginning. It's not a short phrase. It's not an epistrophe. It's not at the end. It's an extended phrase, or it's a long, or it's just not even a long sentence. It's just a complete sentence. So that is this rhetorical device. So here is where we see another rhetorical device. And in just a moment, I'm going to play it so you can hear what it sounds like. It's really the direct contrast to a rhetorical question. When we hear a rhetorical question, we hear the question, we don't expect an answer. However, in Hypophora, we hear a question and the speaker then turns around and answers it within this context of the speech. So the technique of asking a question, then proceeding to answer it. So here, Mark Antony says, "Wherein hath Caesar thus deserved your loves? Alas, you know not. I must tell you then, you have forgot the will I told you of." Right? So you see how they ask the question and then they proceed to answer it as part of the speech. Completely different than rhetorical question where we ask the question, we don't expect an answer. It's almost like implied. So let's take a listen, or let's listen to what this actually sounds like in a speech. We're going to listen to our 34th president, and here's what it sounds like.
When the enemy struck on that June day of 1950, what did America do? It did what it always has done in all its times of peril. It appealed to the heroism of its youth.
Okay, so that's it. So that's what it sounds like, and you will hear them in many presidential speeches. Metonymy is another rhetorical device, and it's the use of one object to represent another with which it is closely associated. So if you mention the White House in a speech or in a written or in an article, right, it really might refer to the presidential power or the administration. Really, that's what it reflects. Or if someone says, I need you, give me a hand, right? And you refer to the word hand, you're really just saying, I need help. Okay? And then if you say the crown, for example, if you mention the crown in your work as opposed to the power of the king. So you're just taking one object, which in this case would be the White House or the symbol of the hand or even the crown, and it represents another which is closely associated. So you would use the word White House in your work, but you really mean something else. You would use the word crown in your work, but you really mean the power of the king. You would use the word hand in your work, in your written work, but you really mean lend a hand, right? And so we'll take a look at how Mark Antony does a very similar approach with metonymy when he says, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Now he doesn't mean literally, hey, let me borrow those ears, right? What he means is, I need you to listen. I need your attention. So this really wraps it up for this video lecture in terms of the rhetorical devices that are introduced in Act 3 of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar.